Thank you, everyone, for joining me again for another episode. I'm excited to talk to Melissa Harris today. She's leading an art experience. I think she calls it a watercolor pilgrimage to Ireland. So, welcome, Melissa.
Thank you.
So,
Great to be here.
what inspired you to start creating these watercolor trips and pilgrimages? And
Well, actually, most of the time I call them art and spirit trips, art and
okay,
spirit retreats. And they're a mix of, the reason I call them that is because they're a mix of, we do some kinds of meditation, and the places that we tend to visit are many of the sacred sites. So rather than it being a dedicated watercolor retreat, it's actually a mix of touring, doing some watercolor, getting some watercolor lessons, and going to the different sites and doing some meditation and some circle sharing. So it's different than a regular dedicated watercolor retreat in that way, because on those kinds of retreats, they wake up, they set up in the morning, they get the morning light, then they have lunch, and then their afternoon painting, and they're painting all day. But I've been teaching for a very long time, and my students back in the day, I was doing these for myself back in the 90s, and my students were asking me if they could come along. So I decided to start doing these a couple of years ago, and they've been really popular.
so about how many people do you take on these
Tiny.
trips? Tiny?
Yeah, tiny. Usually around 8, maximum 10. I really like it to be a very intimate experience, and I feel like anything over that, my own attention is going to really be pretty dispersed. And it is only me. I don't have anyone else facilitating the retreats with me. So I'm kind of congregating everyone, leading the meditations and the circle sharing, and doing the watercolor teaching. So I feel like I don't want too many people.
Yeah, no, that makes complete sense because that is a lot when you're having to do pretty much everything from the moment you get up to the moment you tuck them in, so to speak, at the end
Yeah,
of the
it's like
day.
that. I become the mommy, but I like that.
Yeah. So, what makes Ireland such a special place for you?
Well, it's one of those thin places where it's said that you tune into the other alternate realities a little bit more easily. The fairy energies are very alive there, and one of my students could swear that she actually connected with a fairy, and she has a video of it where the little leaves started moving when she was talking. And so it does, to me, it does feel like that. It was never a place on my bucket list, and it's a long story that I won't take time up here going into, but I found myself there, and I just fell in love with it the minute my feet hit the ground. So I will always go back as long as I can. And
And
then on top of it being just, physically gorgeous, because it is physically gorgeous. There's the beautiful ocean, there's all the green, there's the beautiful foliage and the trees. It does have a very special energy about the place and all over.
yeah,
And the people are
Ireland,
great.
yeah, Ireland is from, I've been once and it has just so many different landscapes and possibilities. So, I guess that kind of brings me to the next question. How do you even begin to pare that down into something that's kind of, choosing your locations?
Well, the first time I went, I hired someone to give me, I asked for a map of places that would be both physically interesting as well as had a very um, unique pagan oriented history.
Hmm.
So I went with a friend, we drove around, I went to all the different places and experienced them energetically and aesthetically, and decided on a few, that we would focus in on. So I have a beautiful, beautiful itinerary that I've been doing for years, and every year I fine tune it again. I actually did switch it up this year. So I'm going to a new place, but I think it will be really gorgeous. It's right on a lake, and then the other one's right on the ocean. So
Oh,
it'll be good.
wow. That's
Yeah.
pretty exciting. And talk about what the weather is like in September and how does that ever impact you and the group on
Well,
what you
when the first time I went in September and it was rainy and maybe a little bit chilly, but these days with global warming, it's not.
Yeah.
Everything's changed. So nothing's really predictable. And the weather was exquisite last September when we went, and that's why I decided to go again this September. So it's nice. You don't have to wear a coat. I don't even know if we maybe wore a jacket. It was kind of perfect.
Oh, nice. That's wonderful. So do participants, I think you kind of touched on it, but do they need to have prior watercolor experience or is it just
No, I do attract a lot of beginning students, and having just gotten back from Sedona, it's fresh in my mind what that
yeah.
involves. And for me, it's very exciting because when the people come that have no experience and they say to me, well, I'm just going to journal, and I say, okay, that's fine, I don't care, as long as it's stimulating you and inspiring you to write, that's fine. And they come, they bring their journal, and the next thing you know, they're painting, and the next thing you know, they prefer that over their writing or their jewelry making or whatever else they normally do, and then they come back and go to other workshops. So it's really nice for me because I feel like I have the opportunity to light that fire in them to want
Yeah.
to paint. And a lot of people are on my mailing list because I've had a greeting card. Well, it was a greeting card company I started with, but I sell my prints and card decks and posters, and I've had many items. So I have a large mailing list that knows me from my own artwork, which is somewhat new agey. There's different series. There's women in dreams, women in meditation, women in cats, women in magic, women in nature, a lot of things. And so those people have been following me for a long time, and they're not people that would normally think that they would want to paint, but they just like what I do.
Right.
And they trust me. So they come on these trips and then they start painting. So it's really wonderful.
Oh, that's exciting. So do they need to bring their own paints? Do you send them a
They do
little?
bring their own paints. I give them a supply list, and then I give them videos and whatever it is they need to know before they come so they're ready to go when they get there.
Yeah, that sounds fabulous. Are
It's
there
not a
any,
lot. No, it's watercolor is lightweight and portable, so not a big deal.
and then transporting the paintings back, is that a
It's
challenge?
it's
Or do they?
easy because watercolor is dry. It's not like oil paint where they
Okay.
have big canvases. It just, could be little pieces of paper they just put against a piece of cardboard in their suitcase and they're ready to go.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, because oils, I know a lot of people try to take the oils and then there's like the space because it's not drying. It's like, it's a whole ordeal.
Yes, it is. And so I am avoiding that. But I love watercolor, so it works for me.
So, what are some of the places like that you stayed? Do you base out of one place? Because this one in September, is it a 2 day or is it a little bit longer than that?
Oh no, it's 10 days or 11 days. And we base out of two different places. And this is the first year that I have done it in one of the places is a hotel. Normally I rent two very large B&Bs, but I've switched over to a hotel this year for a long story, but it is on a lake and it's supposed to be exquisite. And a friend of mine who leads Celtic tours had told me
Hmm.
about it. Her people love this place, their favorite place.
Oh,
And
wow.
it's easier to have the food done there. They do great food, views of the lakes, private rooms. So it in reasonable prices. So it works well for me. So then we're going to go from there. We'll have day tours out, but we'll have some watercolor lessons, maybe in the morning there at the hotel. She's giving me a room for that. And then we will have the driver take us down to our second location, which is actually on the ocean. And it's a very large space and it has a wonderful sunroom where we can set up and paint. And then we'll do day tours from there. So, it's taken me a while to fine tune, but it's perfection. People love it.
Oh, it does.
They
It
just
sounds,
that went last year, they're still connecting all the time on the Facebook page. And they wanted me to conduct another Zoom meeting for them, and they've bonded for life.
oh, wow. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
that's part of it. It's just those connections and friendships they probably make. Oh, that's beautiful.
it is beautiful.
Are there any mobility issues that people need to think about if they're thinking about this
Yes.
trip?
Yeah. It's not strenuous hiking by any means, but there is walking. There's a good deal of walking. So people do need to be able to do that. And in the second place that we stay, it's up a large hill. Now they don't have to walk up there. I can drive them. But some of my people like to do it just because we're a little bit sedentary sometimes, and it's a beautiful exercise, just to walk up the hill. But um, I think it's fine for the average person. For somebody who does have mobility issues, I think they would need to speak to me individually to see if I think it could be a problem.
Right, right. And that's fair. Yeah, to reach out and just have that conversation so you have a understanding of what their limitations might be. But being set up in these two amazing spots sounds like that offers a lot just right there at those locations too.
Yes, it does. It does.
So what are some of the other places you've gone to? Because I know Ireland's not your only destination that you've.
It's the one that I return to every year because it's really in my heart. I have been to did one in New Mexico, and that was a nice venue. I may return there. It's a bit north of Taos. I just got back from Sedona, but we were based in Flagstaff, but we did day trips into Sedona to paint the beautiful rocks there. And we went to the Grand Canyon and some things that I actually hadn't planned. And then let's see, I've been to Italy, Orvieto, Italy. We've done one. I did one for Ghost Ranch.
Hmm.
And these were ones where actually they had hired me. And let's see where else. That might be it. I'm working on a possible one to Scotland for 24. We'll
Oh,
see.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
So do people fly into a gateway city like Dublin or Shannon as
It
and
used to be that they flew into Dublin because of my first location, but now that I've changed it, it's easy. It's better if they can fly into Shannon, but if they can't, and it's not the end of the world if they fly into Dublin. And then I give them directions for how to get to where we meet initially. And
right?
once we have met up, then we have a driver for the rest of it. And then they will have to get back to whatever airport they're flying out of. But I'm there to help them, so we've never really had any problems.
Right,
And
right.
sometimes I hire a van. Well, usually I hire a van for them all to go back to the airport.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah. And are there suggestions you can make then for people? Do you have a preference if they fly into Shannon or Dublin for add-on things that they can do on their own? Like maybe some suggestions?
People do ask me that, and sometimes I give them suggestions. I don't have a list per se because there's so many places that I love, and often people don't have a lot of time.
Oh, that's true.
So, yes, I'll answer questions, but so many of the things that they think about doing, a lot of people ask me about going to the Cliffs of Moher, and I feel like the places that we go on our day tour they are cliffs, and there's a lot of tourists at the Cliffs of Moher, so
Yeah.
I say, well, if you want to you can, but yeah, I'm happy to tell them what I know. But people don't usually have that much more time
Yeah,
to
that's true.
spend because it's 11 days this time, I think.
Right. Yeah. So just the getting there and the time change for many people. I mean, that first day you're kind of
Yeah.
yeah, you're kind of like a little sea, it's not quite sea leg worthy, I guess is the way to
Yes,
put it.
definitely.
Yeah. Um, I wanted to ask a little bit about the extra things that you add in because those sound fabulous too. Like what a typical day. You mentioned how you incorporate some other activities besides just the painting, which I think is fabulous, really immersing in the local.
Yeah, I like the mix. That's why I don't want to do just a painting retreat somewhere and you're standing there painting all day. And I'm not, strictly interested in touring without the painting. So I haven't seen another mix like this. And I
Oh,
haven't seen one where someone has put together the retreat with more than one location. So what we do, well, we might start out in the morning with meditation, some circle sharing, of course, big Irish breakfast, and then some time painting. Then we might go out on a day trip. Sometimes, usually they're to kind of the more special. holy, sacred feeling places like the wells and the standing stones. And sometimes we paint right there on the spot. Often we don't have enough time if we're taking, a bus around during the time, during the day. But sometimes some of my people will do little quick sketches and then do
Oh,
photos and then go back and develop them. Sometimes we do, well, actually, every year we usually do a shopping trip into the town of Dingle. This year we may do a different one into another town. And in the past, I won't go into what I did in the past.
it's
I may
okay.
go back to that itinerary again, I'm not sure, but
Yeah.
I do put in a lot of juicy add-ons. And sometimes, yeah, we have so far always had the Irish music. So
Oh.
it's really, really sweet.
Yeah, you don't have to give away all the surprises. You got to keep those. And
Yes.
tell people a little bit, because some people aren't aware of the Irish breakfast. And that was like a real surprise to me the first time I went to Ireland. I think all of us have this idea of like breakfast in America is completely different than an Irish breakfast. So tell us a little bit about
The
that.
Irish breakfast is big. It's a lot of food, but I like it. And I'm not, I guess because they were maybe out working in the fields, that's the history of it. And they needed something to sustain them. But it's eggs and bake. It can be and or any of this: eggs, bacon, sausage, tomatoes, beans, blood sausage, which I don't know exactly what that is. It's black and I have not had that. Toast, oatmeal, all these things. It's wonderful. I like it. I like a big breakfast. So it works
Yes.
for me.
Yeah, and sometimes at least at some of the Irish breakfasts I had too, they have fresh salmon. I mean, the salmon in those
Yes, I've
breakfasts,
seen that. Hmm.
it was amazing. I'm like, oh my gosh, I've got a full meal here. Once you eat that, you're kind of set for the day.
Yes, definitely. And it used to be that Ireland had a bad reputation for food. It wasn't really supposed to be a food, but now they have great food.
So during the day, do you make a set lunch stop, or you tend to take along like just some snacks and waters for people to
We
just
usually make a set lunch stop. We do our own breakfast in our second location, which is really fun because the women, I love the part where, the different women will do what it is that they like, that they feel called to do, so some of them feel like they are cooks and they cook. Some of them prefer to clean up. Some of them like to go shopping with me. So some of them nothing in their painting, but we do take turns and that works out really nicely and it helps keep the cost down.
Yeah, that does. That is nice. Then do you also give some critique along the way at the end of the day for people as they're
I
learning?
do as we go along, and then at the end we have a review of everyone's work. So it's a beautiful process that way too.
Yeah, and I don't think people should be scared of that because I just talking to you, I just feel a lot of compassion and love and joy for what you do. So just a lot of
I love what I
encouragement.
do. They all become my babies. When they say, I tell them when they get there, you're my babies now. I don't have kids, so you're my babies. And at the end, in art school, we would call it a critique, but I
Yes.
never call it a critique. I call it a review or a discussion. And so everybody puts their work on the wall. And, it can be a little intimidating to people, but it's really not, and I know some people are kind of, I don't really want to do. But then when they get up there, nobody says anything negative. We're only pointing out the strong things in
Yeah.
their work. And people discover that they have abilities that they never had any idea that they would have. It's fascinating, because for me, I always say, as in life, so in art, or vice versa, because people's personalities go into their artwork. And it is very interesting how that works. So somebody that might be very organized and takes time getting ready for the day will do the same thing in their painting. And other people who just kind of wing it, they're just
Yeah.
slamming the paint on and don't care about what, they do care, but once they've got it on there, it's like, oh, now what do I do? So I like that part of it too, just to discover how people bring themselves into their work.
Right, and how people see. I do more photography, but again, it's just you can all be standing or be in the same area, and it's always so surprising. And I'm sure you see this when they're
Yes.
painting. Just,
Isn't that fascinating?
yeah, it's fascinating. They're seeing something completely different that I didn't even notice.
Yes, and some people will take a close-on view, and then other people will be, or other people maybe not even painting what's in front of them. It just really varies.
Do you have a story to share about some of the locals you've met and interacted with in Ireland?
Well, the driver that do I have a story? I'm always talking to my drivers because they're the ones that will reveal what's really happening in the country. So I did learn some things last year, some ways that the local people maybe were dissatisfied with some things that were going on. I won't repeat those because it's
Yeah.
not the time, but it's my drivers who I get the stories from. And last year I hired a gentleman who is a scholar on the sacred sites. He's written
Oh,
some books. Yes, he's got a name in that area. I'm not sure if I'm going to work with him again this year. I haven't decided yet because he had some medical issues. So I have to check in with him. And he was very interesting to talk to too. And it's not hard to talk to people in Ireland because almost anybody that you come upon is open and friendly and helpful. They are the kindest people. I've traveled pretty much, and they're about the kindest people as a group that I've ever come upon.
yeah. That sounds amazing too, to work with someone that is local, that knows more of the history and some of the
Yes,
background of these sites. I think that really adds to the experience.
yes, it does.
So, Melissa, share where people can sign up for this. Hopefully, you have a spot or two maybe left for the Ireland experience or one of the other
Yeah, it's
upcoming.
filling. We're over half, but I do have spaces. And they can contact me at my email is info@melissaharris.com, and that's one L, two S's. Or they can go to my website, melissaharris.com, and they'll see the event listed there.
Yeah, it sounds fabulous. It just sounds incredible. And what an experience. So, whether you're a watercolorist yet or not, I highly encourage people to check out Melissa Harris and consider going to Ireland this way. I mean, it sounds really just an amazing experience for people.
It really is. People bond for life, and I enjoy going along for the ride.
Yeah.
It's fun.
Well, thank you so much, Melissa, for sharing. And the website again is Melissa Harris, and that's Melissa Harris, HARRIS.com. And we'll put that also in the show notes. And I know you've got a beautiful image of Ireland there on the homepage, as well as some other information. Do you have anything else you'd like to let people know before we sign off?
I think that's pretty much it. They're welcome to look at my own paintings too, which is usually how people come to find me anyway, but they'll find that when they go to my website. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to have this discussion.
Of course, Melissa. Thanks.